It's been a long week. That's what happens when I get one extra day off.
Let's do that again. And this is take 2. Hello and welcome to Timed Out for this week. I'm Melinda Farrell. This is Lockie McCurdy, and we're going to have a quick wrap around the world of cricket. Lockie, I hope you've got your timeout ready. We only have 3 minutes to discuss each topic.
I've got a new timer this week. We had Ian Bishop last week, and we've got something a bit cricket related again this week, but you'll just have to wait and see what it is.
Okay, I'm excited. I bet everyone else is too. Let's get on with the show. Well, first up this week, I don't know about you, Lockie, but I've had a few late nights watching New Zealand give England an absolute shellacking. An Edgbaston, Fortress Edgbaston yet again came tumbling down, so it may be losing its edge as a fortress. New Zealand were just outstanding in every way, and England exposed so many fragilities in their batting in particular, didn't they?
That second innings, England's second innings with the bat, that was just abysmal. I mean, Matt Henry tore through at the top of the order. They're taking the first 3 wickets, and the one that was really impressive for me was Ajaz Patel. I mean, in the end of the day, he only took the 2 wickets, but just really gave that New Zealand bowling attack a point of difference and really looked dangerous with ball in hand and took 2 pretty big wickets in Joe Root and obviously James Bracey, who finally got on the board with some runs in his Test career.
Oh, I felt really sorry for him. They actually clapped him, the crowd, when he got his runs. It's like that's the most dismissive thing a home crowd can do. I did feel sorry for him. What I loved around there, I don't know if you happened to see Nasser Hussain's complete rant about how New Zealand keep things simple and play an not old-fashioned, but they get all the basic and traditional skills of cricket right, whereas England, with all their quirks and their sort of homespun techniques or different styles, just didn't cut the mustard. And he was suggesting that they should be out there looking at some of the old greats. And what's scary for England now is there's not really much respite in their next Test series because they've got India, and in Australia we just know how good India can be away at the moment, and the depth in their lineup, both in batting and bowling.
Without a doubt, and I think just seeing New Zealand's depth was kind of scary as well, that they could make, I think, 6 or 7 changes for that Test and still look absolutely full strength. You've got Matt Henry coming into the team as their first choice, their opening bowler to replace Tim Southee, and absolutely tearing through the opening lineup of England's batting order. And yeah, it is a bit of a concern for England, especially that sort of top 5 position. I mean, obviously Joe Root's going to be there and probably Rory Burns after his couple of innings, but beyond that, I don't think there's anyone else that's kind of locked in at the moment or anyone banging the door down ahead of the Ashes later this year, let alone the India series coming up.
Yeah, I mean, there are some caveats in the likes of they're a stronger team, obviously, when they've got Ben Stokes there, and not just a stronger team, but a much better balanced team that allows them so much more leeway. But, they didn't select a spinner. That raised a lot of eyebrows, although in the end, Dan Lawrence took a wicket, and there wasn't really much in the way of 4th and 5th day play when you might expect a spinner to sort of do more. But the balance of that team is a real worry, and it shows just how vital Ben Stokes is.
We've got some crickets.
I see what you did there. Crickets.
It works.
Very
it
nice.
Works. It's simple.
I love a cheesy pun.
Good.
You can always get me with a cheesy
fantastic.
pun. So I heartily approve.
Perfect.
Well done, Lockie. Your job's safe for another
That's
week.
all I need to know.
Next topic up for us today on Timed Out is, of course, the World Test Championship. Following on from that trouncing that New Zealand gave England. Well, what a nice sort of warm-up for them, really, for the World Test Championship, the first of its kind against an India side. What really strikes me about these two sides is you look at the difference in terms of population, you look at the difference in terms of money invested in cricket, and there is a massive gulf, and yet both of these sides have managed to have so much depth, as sort of you mentioned there. It looks like Kane Williamson and BJ Watling, who's going to retire, looks like they're fit. You were talking about Matt Henry before, and that's the irony of the whole thing, or that perhaps the example of the depth that he came into the Test at Edgbaston. He got player of the match, and then it's likely that he'll probably sit on the bench, which is just incredible. And the feats of, as you mentioned, Ajaz Patel, give him the nod over Mitch Santner.
It really is big that you can't disrupt that bowling trio Trent Boult, Southey, and Wagner. I mean, that's just the perfect trio for New Zealand to go into this test. They're the ones who got the job done, so I think it is kind of just going to be like bad luck, Matt Henry. I mean, the one interesting thing, though, I'm not sure how much of a weather hat you've got on now and again. I mean, I have loved your videos of the snow out there at the moment, but the weather in Southampton is not looking good over the course of the next week or so for the World Test Championship final. Now, I'm not always one to read exactly in verbatim to what the weather forecast says, but that 6th day, that reserve day, could be coming in handy at the end of this test match, because I think we're going to have a fair bit of cricket rained off, especially that opening day on Friday. The forecast is not looking great there, so it could play into the hands of someone like a Trent Boult, who will be moving that Dukes ball around.
Well, although it's fair to say too that India have got their own bowlers who might be able to do a bit with it as well. Look, one thing I can tell you, as someone who's experienced a lot of weather in England, never trust the forecast. Never, ever, ever, ever trust the forecast. The number of times I've been over there during a test match and it looks like no chance of getting any play, and you end up getting, maybe 2.5 sessions. So be very circumspect about the weather. One interesting thing it will be, looks like the remaining spot there surrounds Colin de Grandhomme. So whether he might come in and play, whether or not Jamieson will get the nod and have to bat at number 7. So there's still some intrigue around that side. Maybe the weather might play a little bit of a part in it, but it's just, you don't know what to expect. I guess it's like a decider in a 3-test series, but will they approach it that way?
It will be very interesting to see. Oh, my time has gone off, but the sound has not played. Maybe my job is not safe.
Oh, that's cricket.
Yeah, my job is not safe. I don't know why. I don't know what's happening here, but that is our 3 minutes. But I agree. Maybe Colin de Grandhomme is the one to come into the side this week.
Lovers of mullets everywhere celebrate. Okay, next topic up for discussion. Well, Tim Paine fronted the media up in Brisbane, where he's been for the past couple of days, and it was the first time he'd spoke since some news reports had suggested that some members, at least, of the national side or the national sides have been a little less than happy with the coaching style of Justin Langer, suggesting that it's a bit too intense. But Tim Paine was pretty firm in his backing of Langer, wasn't he?
He really was. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's not going to say anything else, is he? Even if there's the biggest problem there. If you come out in front of the cameras and say that, then that's just not going to help it at all. So I think we all knew this was the response that was coming from Tim Paine, but it was good to see that sort of emphatic support. Obviously, there were those reports there for a while after that India series, and they kind of tapered off a bit quickly. It was sort of a really hot topic for about a fortnight. Then it was kind of addressed by a few, and it's kind of tapered off. So I think for the most part, it was kind of just a bit of frustration that built up after that India series loss, and that maybe this time off from the Australian Test team will do them a bit of good, and heading into the summer at the end of this year, and obviously the T20 series as well that they've got to play in the World Cup, that the relationship between Langer and the players will be nice and fresh.
Yeah, speaking of time off, the other thing that's sort of causing a bit of a kerfuffle, the amount of players who are pulling out of the tour to the Caribbean and to Bangladesh as well. They've got limited over series in both of those countries with an eye on that T20 World Cup later in the year. And Tim Paine was kind of saying we need to be more understanding because of the amount of time spent in bubbles and quarantine. But is it also a case, are we really seeing sides, and Australia's not the only one, being tested in showing what their priorities are and how they manage those players with those various priorities competing?
I think we are to a certain extent. Look, I'm certainly okay if they're opting not to tour to stay at home. I think if it was another circumstance of opting not to tour to be involved in some other tournament or to kind of put franchise cricket over international cricket, then I'd be more concerned. But the fact that they're just wanting to take some time at home ahead of what is going to be a massive year when you look at it. You've obviously got the T20 World Cup, you've got the Ashes, throw in a test against Afghanistan, throw in white ball series probably in February, March. There's going to be a lot of cricket. So the fact that they're wanting to take a break now and save, I guess, 1 or 2 potential extra hotel quarantines, I'm more than fine with that.
Yeah, although I guess the problem is when you say, yes, they've got a big summer coming up, there's always a big sort of summer coming up, series coming up and everything else, and you kind of wonder just the extended effect of all of this and how they manage it. It's back on.
And it's back on, and we're back. Look, if it means Dan Christian gets to pull on an Australian jersey again, I am more than okay with it.
I'm so on the Dan Christian bandwagon, it's not funny. Yes, old blokes win stuff, and that's ridiculous because he's not old. But still, yes, Christian must play.
Yes.
Next up on the list, we have Shakib Al Hassan, and that really caused a bit of a stir around the world. Some vision, quite shocking vision really, of two occasions in the Dhaka Premier League match where he basically spat the dummy, kicked the stumps, pulled the stumps out, wasn't happy after appealing for LBW, and then wasn't happy when the players were taken off when it was raining by the umpires. It was pretty ugly to see, wasn't it?
It was really almost frightening, I guess, the leniency with which it's also been dealt with. Like, let alone in a massive domestic cricket tournament in a Test cricket playing country like Bangladesh. You go to 5th, 6th grade of any grade cricket competition, that gets punished, that person gets fined, that person gets suspended for a season. The fact that he's only been given 3 matches for that, and I think it worked out to about a 6,000 Australian dollar fine or something around that mark, it's remarkable. And for someone who has been in such trouble with sort of the code of conduct and the ICC code of conduct in recent years, it's just not what you want to be seeing from, I guess, the poster boy of Bangladesh cricket.
Yeah, and he really is, and it's such a shame for me because I actually love watching him play. I'm a really big fan of Shakib Al Hassan, and he's been such a wonderful player, a real backbone of that side for a number of years now, and one of the most talented all-rounders in the world for sure. So I guess that's really disappointing. Perhaps if it had been in an international match, the penalties might have been greater. So that's something to consider. This was a domestic league, so it was actually the Bangladesh Cricket Board who made the decision on this. I hope it's something we don't see again because umpires are so integral to the game. We can't play without them, and although they cop a lot of stick, respect for umpires needs to be sort of shown across the board.
That's the thing. It's the sort of footage that would scare any person who was maybe thinking about becoming an umpire or helping out, whether it's whatever level it's at. If someone watches that footage, they go, no, I don't want to be an umpire, just because of the risk of something like that happening. I mean, yeah, it was just phenomenal. Like, I remember watching it on Friday night or whenever it happened and just going, how an international cricketer thinks they can get away with that is beyond remarkable. It was shocking footage, and hopefully something that we don't see again for a very long time.
He did, of course, apologise. Although I noticed in his apology, there may be something got a little bit lost in translation, but he sort of said, against all odds, sometimes this happened. I'm not sure about the against all odds stuff. I'm not sure
about that either.
Okay, and finally, well, it's a test time. It's test time between England and India, not the men. That's a little while away, but one-off test as part of a multi-format series between India and England women. And look, I'm really excited about this because I was there at Wornsley the last time these two sides played, and India fielded, I think, 8 debutants in that match. They came away with victory, and it was huge for them. And I've gone back and looked at my writing at the time, and so much of it then was about, the fact that they didn't even have central contracts then. I know there's stuff now about, the India women being played, but they didn't even have central contracts. They were desperate for the attention and the recognition from their board that they really wanted. They've come a long way since then. I think both sides have 6 players who played in that test, but still a long time between drinks for that India team.
I think looking at the current Indian squad, I think they've picked a squad of 18 to go over. 10 of those players have never played a test match before, and I think it's only 4 when you look at the England squad of 15. So obviously a lot more experience there within that England setup, and I think they've obviously played 3 tests since India last played a test match. So, I mean, I'm just so excited that we finally got a test match that isn't an Ashes test. It's felt like forever since it's been that case, and it's just going to strengthen women's cricket around the world if we start seeing more test cricket played between other nations that aren't just Australia and England. Obviously, the Ashes is massive in the sport of cricket, and of course in women's cricket it has grown to become almost the pinnacle of the game, but we just need to start building out this base of Test cricket. Otherwise it's going to be just Australia and England, the two, I guess, boards who have thrown the most money at women's cricket. So if India can produce another stunning performance here, it will just be massive for the game.
Yeah, well, few people gave them a real chance last time because England had just, scored sponsorship deals and central contracts, bigger payments as well. And India managed to do it that time. They're obviously not been in great form. They had a year where they didn't play cricket pretty much after the T20 World Cup final against Australia, and then they were beaten at home in a T20 series and an ODI series against South Africa. So, and that is a big ask for them. I'm really happy that they're not only is it a multi-format series, but they are playing for points all the way through. It's something we don't know if that's going to happen in the series against Australia later this year, but I think it's fantastic relevance all the way through the series.
And I'm sure the Aussie women will be eagerly watching this test match to see what they can expect from India, because it's been just as long for them, if not longer, since they've played India in a test match. So it'll be very exciting to see what's going through their head. They're thinking about game plans ahead of that amazing test that it's going to be over at the WACA in September this year.
Yeah, one thing I really hope, I just hope, I'm going to get this in. I just hope there's a decent pitch down there in Bristol, because that is the most important thing. It really is, to give them a chance of producing some entertaining cricket. So there,
you got it in.
Cricket's to you. Well, that's it for this week. It's been a busy week, and it's going to get busier still, because I'm getting ready to basically stay up at night. So I've got to reset my clock so that I can stay up late at night. You're doing the same? Of course,
I think I will be. I think it's a bit hard not to. I mean, I did prefer when they started a little bit earlier, the test matches. I think they don't kick off until about 9:30 Sydney time for us. So I preferred the 7:30, 8 o'clock start. So it'll push my boundaries a little bit more, that's for sure.
If you like, I'll have a word.
That'd be nice. Please do.
I know people. So that's it. We'll be back next week. There's going to be plenty of news next week. Certainly out of that, we should know, hopefully, who is the new World Test Champion, or the first ever World Test Champion, which I'm very much looking forward to. So enjoy your cricket all throughout the week, and we will see you next week for another edition of Timed Out.